Hello, everybody, and welcome to another Last Minute Continue cast with myself, John Turbo Finley, for the month of February 2020 here on lastminutecontinue.com, as well as many other listening outlets. Yet you're probably listening to this podcast right now. Again, for this month, I am on my own with none of the Last Minute Continue crew members here to talk about what they've done this month. I know, it's a shame. I would like to see, anyone else's perspective of this month at all. But, of course, you got good old reliable Turbo here just talking bollocks for the next hour or so. So, it's gotta be, I think we're just gonna call these solo podcasts of the LMC cast just Turbo talks about, and then ... at the end, and it's just basically anything that I want to talk about for the next hour or so. So, yeah, look forward to a lot to be talked about this month, especially some big ones. Of course, a lot of movies have been watched this month by myself, so without further ado, let's get right to it. So, this month is obviously February. You know what this month is all about on the movie front, especially that on the gaming thing. But I want to wait a little bit before I talk about that major thing, because there have been other things that have been talked about here. Well, I say talk about, but I want to talk about that. I think that's better phrasing. I want to talk about a couple of other films that I've watched via various kind of like formats and stuff like that, particularly that of Netflix. I have been continuing my Netflix subscription. They recently uploaded a bunch of Studio Ghibli or Ghibli, I don't know how you pronounce it, Studio Ghibli films up on there, and I actually rewatched a couple of ones that I already own on DVD, as well as watched a few ones that I don't own on DVD and actually have never actually watched before. That one of them particularly being that of My Neighbor Totoro. Now, a lot of people have garnered this as like the Studio Ghibli film. I mean, granted, it's in their studio logo, essentially, of Totoro being like a major part of their studio. Though, after kind of like I watched some reviews of the film, and some people and it's kind of like mixed opinion, essentially. There's some people who absolutely adore it and love it and whatnot, and find it as a very charming film, and I can see that. Others don't find that charm. They actually find it quite boring and stuff like that, and I can understand where they're coming from. So where do I come from in this viewing this film for the first time? And granted, after, because I've watched Spirited Away, I've watched House of Moving Castle and all those other films. Basically, I was like introduced to the Studio Ghibli film collection as such after Spirited Away. Spirited Away was obviously the jumping on point for a lot of Westerners, myself included, and whatnot. So I'm coming from that kind of like era of enjoying the studio's work. And going backwards and seeing some of the older works that has been done in the past is quite I wouldn't say refreshing. It's not problematic in any way, shape, or form. It is actually charming to see some of these kind of like older stuff. And My Neighbor Totoro is one of those charming films. It's a story about a family who's just moved into a new house that's a little out in the wilderness, shall we say? It's like out in the boonies. But it's a father and two daughters, and I was, of course, I was watching this on Netflix, and I was watching it with the English dub, and now apparently, what was it? I think it's the same kind of like dub that they used for the US release. So it's obviously like all the kind of like Disney kind of like cast, and I think what was it? The older sister. I've forgotten their names, which is very shameful of me. Shame, Turbo, shame. You should have remembered the characters' names at least. Trust me, I've been watching a lot of stuff this past month, so yeah, I can't remember everything off the top of my head. Don't worry, we'll get to another film where I don't even know who the human character is, and it's not that film that you're thinking about. Don't worry, but it's basically the older sister. I believe she's the same voice actress that voiced Chihiro in Spirited Away. At least I know that one because I know the film a lot. So it was kind of, I wouldn't say it's jarring, but it's interesting that how the same voice actress was used for those projects and whatnot. But what was kind of annoying to me a lot was the sisters dynamic, and especially the younger sister. Now, we've all had this. I mean, if anyone's had, obviously, siblings in their families where they've grown up with, it's like the youngest sibling of a family would always repeat what the older one says. So it's like an older sister, younger sister kind of like dynamic. And in this movie, the younger sister will always repeat what the older sister said, but in a much louder, obnoxious tone. And that just threw me off a little bit with, in certain scenes for this film. And that it was kind of annoying. It kind of grated on me for a bit. But it didn't last too long. It did subside after about, after the halfway mark, essentially. And no, I mean, granted, it's a natural kind of like whimsical kind of like spirited, some obviously that of the whimsical kind of like style that Studio Ghibli was known for. It did try to put in a bit of like confliction and kind of like a sense of like danger to it as well, where eventually the main climax ends up the older sister trying to find the younger sister because apparently she's lost, and the threat of her being like kind of like injured or whatever, and then it's the older sister's job to find Totoro to then find her younger sister and whatnot, and they eventually they all find them. They find themselves, and then it's all good and hunky dory and whatnot, and everyone's happy as Larry. And apparently, some kind of like people out there actually interpret the ending of the film. And of course, I'm going into spoilers here, but come on, just My Neighbor Totoro, and it's like I'm sure everyone's watched it, and if you haven't, where the hell have you been? So, but with the ending, a lot of people, like some people, are kind of like analyze the ending to My Neighbor Totoro as the sisters, both the male, both sisters, and like the older sister and the younger sister, they both died, which I didn't see that with the ending credits. Did anyone actually watch the bloody ending credits? It's like past the initial last scene where actually the girls actually meet up with the rest of like the community, and they're all fine and hunky dory and whatnot. It's baffling, and it was all in result of like the younger sister wanting to be with her mother, who's in the hospital, who's poorly and whatnot. And we've all been there. We've had family members who've been poorly in the hospital, and they want to meet, visit or have the poorly family member be discharged for a day or two or whatever, to have fun with the family in a more natural kind of like environment. But yeah, it's like we all have that issue, and how that kind of like makes now it actually hits home for me a little bit, cause I was a younger sibling. I've done the dumb thing of going away from a safe location and actually trying to get somewhere, on my own without any help and whatnot, and effectively almost getting myself lost or possibly killed. So this movie kind of hits hard on me a little bit in that last third, essentially, because I've been that stupid, before, and it's just only lucky that nothing majorly wrong happened to me, and same for the young sister in My Neighbor Totoro. Nothing majorly wrong happens to her, which is good. Would I recommend watching it? Of course. If you're a fan of Studio Ghibli in general, then you have to watch this. And it's like, and that's the same for all the Studio Ghibli films that are up on Netflix right now. If you got a Netflix subscription, go nuts. Have a Ghibli marathon with all the films that are on there. There's tons on there, and probably some more will be talked about in future LMC cast episodes where. You got like Porco Rosso, what was it? Castle in the Sky. I'm trying to think of all the other ones that are up there that I haven't actually watched. Ocean Waves. Oh, actually, no. I own Ocean Waves. I've actually watched that, and all that. But also another one that's actually up on there. That is kinda a Studio Ghibli film, but technically not, because it's also part of another license. It's actually a licensed film, but it's also kind of like pre Studio Ghibli essentially, and that is Lupin the Third, the Castle of Castiglioso. I forgot. I can't even remember how to pronounce it now. And this is why I need other people to help me with pronunciations and whatnot. But no, the Lupin the Third franchise is quite a prominent kind of like media franchise. In fact, actually, it's currently, I think it's currently got a 3D animated movie for the series out now, in Japan at least. I don't know about the West, but yeah, that's been getting the big talking point and whatnot. But no, it's like this animated feature, and I have seen other animated features before. I think I at one point I watched one on the I say now defunct. It's like more like now non-relevant sci-fi channel, or the sci-fi channel, as some people like to call it, because they misspell it now. There was a Lupin the Third film being shown at one point during that, and I think it was The Secret of Mamo or Mamu. I can't remember the thing, but it was quite a weird one. But regardless, this one, the Castle of Cagliostro, I think that's how you pronounce it. This was interesting. It was a nice a nice little thing to kind of like see before Studio Ghibli was Studio Ghibli, because it is in Studio Ghibli's kind of like style, essentially, like in art style, and it shows. The plot, however, is a bit off, because you have Lupin here being kind of like, he goes from different kind of like personalities, and it's like at first he's like, he's quite the adventurer. He's in it for the glory, not for the money. And then he's a romantic. Then he's kind of like a nobleman as such, to a certain degree. He's all over the place in this film. And he's even a little bit of a sleazeball but that sleazeball kind of like persona, he doesn't actually show off that much, and that's quite a prominent thing as part of his kind of like personality. He is quite the like very sleazy at times, where he's like he's a womanite. He like he would bed any woman if he wanted to, if he had the chance. If the chance was there for him, he would go for it. He doesn't have that in this film, obviously, because it's more family orientated, and I think with the guys pre Studio Ghibli were working on this film, they wanted to have their own interpretation of the character, I assume, so, which is fair game. I mean, it's only evident, but nevertheless, I did actually end up enjoying it. I mean, the climax to the film was a bit all over the place, and then the final bad guy in the end getting his comeuppance in a very I would say it's not a very I wouldn't say it's original, or I wouldn't say it's unoriginal either. It is out there. It's quite out there. It's something. Yeah, definitely. And I hate how they kind of like, okay, it's like the main characters know what they need to do, but of course we can't just have the it all resolved in the second act. No, we have to stretch it out into the third act and whatnot, and which would end up Lupin being heavily injured as he's trying to escape with the princess of Cagliostro, and he's injured, and then we go into the third act where he comes back. He tries to stop the marriage and whatnot, and it kind of stretched it out a little too long. I think there should have been a little bit more work into having Lupin like try to outwits the authorities while traveling to Cagliostro, and actually doing other things while on the journey to there, because it all basically started on after a heist where he got all this he got a buttload of cash and whatnot, but all the notes are fake. So he finds out that all these fake notes are coming from this one country. So he travels there to find the fake printing press and whatnot, and hijinks ensued. And of course, just along in the ride is this damsel in distress. Apparently, Lupin is like the typical kind of like hero, to help the damsel in distress. It's it's just out of character. I think I say it's out of character, but his character's all over the place. I think. And granted, I'm not 100% kind of like knowledgeable of the character of Lupin the Third, but regardless, it's like I got the gist of it with the other kind of like medias that I've seen so far. So, I mean, I might have to just knuckle down and actually watch more movies of the character and see that, or even read the manga, because of course it's a manga, first and foremost. But anyway, moving on from that, there was another film that I did watch. I don't know if I talked about this last week, but I did watch it recently enough, and I might as well talk about it. It's again another film on Netflix that I wanted to, I was intrigued, and it is a video game themed as well. It's that of Ni no Kuni. Now, I didn't even know Ni no Kuni was going to get a film adaptation of some kind, and it was quite interesting to see this up on Netflix, and it's like, I'll give it a watch. And granted, good. It does have correlation with the two games that it's based off of, where human characters are then are transported to this kind of like other world, and they notice that the characters notice that certain characters in the real world are portrayed in the fantasy world almost the same way. They're almost like a mirror image of those other those other people that they know, and it's quite interesting. And the twist. Now, I'm not gonna give the twist away. I'm not gonna like spoil that for you. But it's the twist. You kind of get an idea of why, or like where the twist where the twist comes from. So it's like you kind of see it coming to a certain degree. But no, with overall, it's like it was all right. The forced kind of like confrontation between the two male characters. Again, I can't even remember their names. Jeez, it's just when a film's not that engaging, you kind of forget what their what characters' names are at times. So it's kind of disappointing. But regardless, the what was it? The two main characters in this film, they suddenly just go like head to head, like for no reason, really no absolute reason, because the only thing that they're going up head to head is that one believes that now, of course, what happens in the real world happens in the fantasy world, and vice versa. So basically, there was this one moment where in the real world, one of the main characters' girlfriends, the girlfriend for one of the main characters, gets stabbed by something, and they get stabbed by this shadowy figure and whatnot in the real world. So they try to rescue her, but then in doing so, in trying to rescue her and whatnot, for some reason they get sent to the other world. And then they find out that in this other world, there's a princess who looks exactly like their friend and, the girl that got stabbed. And she too also has like an illness where she is being cursed and whatnot. And it looks like the dagger that also stabbed their real friend. So somehow they find a way of ridding this curse off of this princess, which in turn saves the life of their friend in the real world, which is great. The only problem is that at one point they go back to the real world, then after a bit they go back to the fantasy world, the other world, and for some reason one of the characters just goes, "Oh, the princess is alive, but I think we need to kill." But he gets it in his mind, and because he's being obviously manipulated to thinking this way as well, which I feel as though it's just so forced, he gets the idea that the princess is the cause of all this problems for my girlfriend and whatnot, because even though they rescued her and whatnot, for some reason she's also dealing with a cancer or some cancer of some kind. So it's very shoehorned. It frankly is quite shoehorned. So now he's thinking, right, because we saved the princess's life, now my girlfriend in the real world is getting punished. So now I have to kill the princess in the other world, and it just doesn't make any sense. He doesn't make any sense. He doesn't understand what he's talking about, and it's a bit stupid. That little bit there, the motivations of one of the main characters to go to the dark side and whatnot, and bollocks like that. So it's kind of annoying having to deal with that. But after it's all resolved and everything, and the twist is revealed, and the two major twists of who the bad guy is, and the true motives of their intentions and stuff like that. It's it ends up being an alright movie. Is it a great video game movie? It's okay. It's good. But I would say just give it a watch and see for yourself. If you are a fan of Ni no Kuni and you like that concept of, and I mean, granted, it's kind of like a concept that's been used a lot, where main character goes to fantasy world. Yeah. I think that there's an actual genre for that in the Japanese anime scene. I think Sekai? Sekai? Is it Senkai or Senkai? I probably said it the same way each way, and I can't even pronounce it correctly. But regardless, no, give it a shot. Give it a watch. It might be worth it. Who knows? Whatever film I want to talk about during this time is... it was basically the film that I needed to watch to kind of like prepare myself for the main event, which we'll get to in just a second. And that was the Bumblebee movie from a while back. Now, Bumblebee obviously is a spinoff for the Transformers license, the Transformers movies franchise. And this was Paramount's baby as such, but Transformers was always a big thing for Paramount. Now, granted, I did watch the first Transformers film. I to a certain degree, I actually enjoyed it. And that's good. Second film, it was okay. I think I saw it in theaters, but I never picked it up on DVD. The first one I watched in theaters and also picked it up on DVD. But the second one, only watched it in theaters, didn't pick it up on DVD. Fell out with it after that. Like, because I realized how annoying like Shia LaBeouf was in those movies, whatnot. So I didn't bother to go to any of the other sequels after that. And even though Peter Cullen is amazing voice actor as Optimus Prime, and he knows how to nail it, it's just not like, it wasn't hitting with me. Like the plots of those movies and how it's kind of like involves with the human characters in there was a lot of human involvement in that's not revolving around the Autobots and Decepticons. It's just really annoying. But I was thinking, okay, to prepare myself for the inevitable main event that was gonna be for this month, I needed to watch this previous project that was kind of in the same vein, and of course that being Bumblebee. Now, and I can see the similarities, so let's just go over it. The first 5-10 minutes of Bumblebee, I loved, because it basically opens up on Cybertron with the Cybertronian War happening right then and there, with the Autobots and the Decepticons going at it, full pelt and whatnot. And you're seeing all the notable kind of like, Autobots and Decepticons. You see Optimus Prime, you see Bumblebee, you see Ironhide, all those characters there. You also see from Decepticons, you see Soundwave and I think Starscream was in it. And all those kind of like cool things. And you see Optimus Prime being a badass and whatnot. It's amazing. Then it changes tone, obviously, to because we have to set it at Earth, because we need to have tone down the budget. We have Bumblebee crashing on Earth in the middle, in a section of a forest where in the middle of it was a training exercise with some military personnel led by John Cena. So you know where this is coming. John Cena, who sees Bumblebee as this, although he does have another name, for some reason. I don't know why they just don't call him Bumblebee to begin with, on Cybertron. But he's got an officer rank or officer number in in the film to start with. But then he eventually gets his name Bumblebee by interacting with the human character of this film, who is a teenager or a young adult who has obviously got some insecurities, and she's lost her father, and she's a mechanic, and all that stuff. Jesus Christ. So yeah, the human character, I have no bloody care for her. I do not care for her one bit. She is pretty much a walking trope, and not in the kind of like she's a sexy woman kind of like trope. No. She's an angsty teen who lost her father and is trying to, and has insecurities about herself. That is terrible. That is a terrible character to have on film, and I can tell you that. It just was not flying with me. She had a little bit of snark to herself. She did have her little moments, essentially, where, there's a moment where she kind of like, when she discovers Bumblebee and whatnot, and she doesn't really freak out. She doesn't, completely goes batshit and crazy on realizing that there is a transforming, Volkswagen Beetle in her garage. It's like she's a little calm to it and all. Eventually, the main plot of it is that Bumblebee, when he came to Earth and whatnot, he was being tracked down by Decepticons. One Decepticon was able to find him, And of course, Bumblebee was talking at the start, but then we have to have a reason why Bumblebee doesn't have a voice and whatnot. Because he has a Decepticon find him, rip out his vocal cords to stop him from talking, because Bumblebee didn't want to talk about where the other Autobots are. So, all right, Decepticon's logic is, okay then, if you're not gonna talk, I will take the ability of your speech impediment. Speech impediment? No. You know what I meant. You know what I mean. It's like taking away his ability to speak. That's what I meant to say. And thus, make it as, because this is an origin movie. This is the origin of Bumblebee when he came to Earth, because in the original film, he lost his voice, he lost his ability to talk. So there you go. Whatever. With the rest of the film and whatnot, it's just obviously Bumblebee with the human character, with the girl human character. I don't even know her name. That's how forgettable some of these characters can be. If you're not, if you don't care about the character and you don't care about the, her and whatnot, then yeah, it's kind of annoying. There's a moment where she is at a little kind of like party near some cliffs that's connected to the ocean or whatever, and these kids are just doing dives off these cliffs into the ocean, which is dumb because you can kill yourself, and I don't know how anyone didn't die while doing that. Don't understand it. Logic totally out the window. Doesn't matter. And because the female main character, she used to be a diver, and it was her. Once her daddy died and whatnot, she lost her confidence. She lost that will to keep being in those competitions, those diving competitions, and eventually it would lead to her character arc of finding confidence to save Bumblebee at one point, because Bumblebee was in a situation where he was about to get drowned or crushed or whatever, and she dives into the water to try to save Bumblebee and whatnot, and it didn't mean anything because it's a bloody transformer, and it's like he's able to escape from something so simple and whatnot. There was no point. Anyway, it's ridiculous. So I needed to watch this film to kind of like get myself into the mood of expecting the worst that was going to happen, because of course this month was the big month for all of us here that are Sonic fans and Sega fans and wanted to see this supposed train wreck that we anticipated it to be, which was the Sonic the Hedgehog movie. Now, granted, this has got to be the most polarized, both ways, kind of like viewpoint movie of all. This, I basically put it out on Twitter. Okay, if you follow me on Twitter at TurboXLR, I put out a tweet saying that this is probably the most. I didn't say controversial, but it was like the most mixed opinion film of all time, I think. And because you have people out there, you have critics out there who are all over the place. Some people think this is a good movie. Some people think it's bad. Some people think it's okay. Some people think it's terrible. Some people think it's the worst thing to be put on celluloid. Some people think it's the most awesome film of all time. It's one of the best family films of all time. And all this and that next thing is so broad of a kind of like consensus that you don't know, you can't take a person's opinion, myself included. You can't even take my opinion into account either. So really, this is just me just gotta talk about it for a wee bit and not actually giving you an overall opinion on kind of like a simple kind of like yes, no, maybe or whatever. It's just basically, I'm just gonna say this right now. If you're interested in this film and you just want to know what it's all about, go see it. because I can't say anything, and nobody else, no other critic or influencer or whatever who is out there can tell you or give you a straight opinion, because everyone's opinion is different. Some people like it, some people don't, some people love it, some people hate it. It's completely all over the place, and I've noticed that. I've noticed that for the entire as of this recording, it's like about a week and a half or 2 weeks roughly. So by the time this gets released, obviously at the end of the month, it'll be 2 weeks. 2 weeks of craziness. It's like it's all over the place. It's so polarizing. But what are my thoughts on it? What did I think? I was going into it with so low expectations. I was even with the redesign of Sonic, which we talked about on this very podcast. We are basic. Well, I think we did talk about it. I'm not. Yeah, we did talk about the redesign. But even with redesign, I was still skeptical of the script, of how it's portrayed, how it's kind of like how it would go, how it would flow, and how cringy it could be and whatnot. And granted, after watching it, I was okay. I pretty much am in the same boat as a lot of people who went to see it and thought it was an okay film. I wasn't expecting it to be absolutely amazing. I wasn't expecting a lot of the kind of like kind of like referential kind of like stuff for the Sonic related stuff. All the pop culture stuff though, is gonna date this film. It is going to date this film. It's not was going to date this film. No, it is going to date this film. There's going to be a lot of jokes that are going to be flying over the heads of a lot of people, especially of people who live outside of the US, because this film is and always will be catered to an US audience more so than anything else. And that is evident by most of the jokes that are in this film, and most of the references, and most of the market, like the kind of like what was it, the shameless plugs that's in here, because you got a couple of plugs in here that are used as joke material, such like that. And the one particular one, well, actually no, I'm not going to talk about any of the kind of like jokes and references and stuff like that. It's because I feel as though there shouldn't be like I shouldn't be spoiling it for you. I just want you to go see it, as simple as, because I feel as though, and I was going to have like a big discussion with a lot of the other guys, and thinking, saying to, or asking them, not if, because again, like I said, none of the guys at LMC actually watched the film. I just wanted to get their opinion on how do you see this as, possibly one of the most opinionated kind of like films of all time, because I feel as though that is the case. This is a very heavily broad kind of like a opinionated film, essentially. But regardless, I mean, I liked Sonic being portrayed by Ben Schwartz. He was a decent Sonic. However, I'm in the camp where consistency is the key. And and because we had Roger Craig Smith in the role for the longest time, in both, not only in the games, but also in TV as well, it kind of breaks that consistency. And of course, I'm obviously, because with myself, I'll be disheartened of that consistency, and it's the same with Dr. Robotnik being portrayed by Jim Carrey. Now, granted, Jim Carrey, he did do a great job. However, I'm just disappointed that another actor who's been in the role for as long as bloody 16 plus years, maybe more, Well, that's why I said 16 plus. So, like over a decade and a half, playing the role. And he's also an actual actor who has done stage play and who has had that kind of like, acting background. He has, a lot of kind of like, thing. He obviously, I'm talking about Mike Pollock, obviously, but the main problem is that obviously because you needed to garner the general audience, you need to hook them with a well-known name, and of course, the best well-known name that they have for this film is Jim Carrey. Nothing more. You've got obviously Josh Martin, I think his name is, the guy who plays Tom, the sheriff in the film. He obviously he's not as big as Jim Carrey, and yet he's like the number two for this film. But really the number two is obviously supposed to be Robotnik. It's because it's Sonic and Robotnik, who eventually does get his Eggman name in this film. Though it's kind of like a workaround, or it's a roundabout way of how it goes. But the thing is that you have Mike Pollock, who would have been great to have been able to take a character who he is portrayed in video games in a video game form for the longest time, and who could theoretically pull off a live action version of the character, but yet no one gave him the opportunity. Or if he was given the opportunity, and he was given the opportunity to try and go for this role, but was ultimately turned down just simply for the fact that they needed to have a more well-known person to take on the role, I find that to be disingenuous. I find that to be insulting to a certain degree, and I see that with Mike's kind of like Twitter interaction with a lot of the fans online, where every single fan, and I hate seeing this every single time. I hate seeing Mike Pollock having to respond to all these people who are constantly badgering him, talking about, oh, have you seen the Sonic movie? Oh, have you seen the Sonic? And every time he has to respond, in a way where he has to, he has to laugh about it. But I can tell you this: you are constantly pissing off the man, and it's pissing me off seeing him having to hide the fact that he's pissed off. And that's just me. That's how I am interpreting this, because it is really annoying to see the man who has portrayed the character for so long not being involved in this project, and having to be notified about this almost on a daily basis. It's infuriating. I would be pissed off if that was the case. If there was a case where, for example, like I did a playthrough of a certain game, and someone was badgering me on Twitter, saying, "Oh, you've played this game, right? You played this game, right? Have you seen this guy's playthrough of the game? Or have you seen this guy's playthrough of the game? Oh, have you seen this guy?" Or worse still, "Oh, the Game Grumps played that. Did you know that the Game Grumps played that game too? They thought it was shit. What do you think about that? Huh? And it's like, that would piss me the frick off, essentially. I'm trying not to swear too much right now, because I feel as though I swear enough as it is on my other projects. I don't want to be swearing as much on here. So I can understand how Mike has been feeling, or I feel as though that's the case. But maybe he's not. Maybe he's cool with it. Maybe he's fine with it. I'm not in the man's head. But if it was me in if I was in that position, I would be pissed. Simple as. But regardless, the film itself is fine, and it's good. It's okay. It's in that middle ground. It's in that kind of like mid ground. I liked some of the references that was showcased. I loved how they portrayed Sonic's world. A couple other things that are involved in that world was questionable, and whatever. Some of the some of the scenes, obviously, I did have some like smiling moments to it and whatnot, where I was like grinning ear to ear. And of course, the ending, the ending credits that leads to a very well known. It's becoming well known now. Everyone's been talking about it online and in various YouTube. Trust me, I'm not the only person to talk about this film. There are plenty of outlets of people who have been talking about this film, from major influencers to small time channels. Everybody's talking about this film, and frankly, I was just hoping to get a lot of people's other opinions on this in our little collective group here at LMC, but sadly no, it's just myself. So, and I went to see it 4 times. Although I'm not the saddest bastard in the play, I'm not the saddest person here seeing it 4 times. No, Jamie of the Sonic Show, he's seen it 5. That's sad. I kid. It's like he's fine. Although one thing I'm not 100% sure. Happy about is him. Okay, this is just gonna be a little off topic and whatnot, but frankly, when you make merchandise from from a memeable kind of like quote in this film and whatnot, you kind of lose a little bit of respect from me, just a bit. And it's like, now, it's not to say that I have ideas of parodying something for, with my own kind of like twist to it and whatnot. But really, in all honesty, some of the ideas that I have are quite cool things, like cool ideas of taking cool ideas and, making a cool parody of it and whatnot. That... taking a very stupid line and making it put it on a t-shirt, it just doesn't bode well with me. It doesn't gel with me that well. That's just my opinion. Just my opinion. And of course, for a man who's gone and seen the film 5 times, which is more than me, but frankly, it's like it does raise this question. Now, granted, after the 4th time and whatnot, it's like, okay, I've done enough. I've watched it enough. And even on my 4th time, there were still some references. There's very subtle references still hidden in the film that I never caught on and whatnot. So, that's only fair game. But even after after the 4th time I went to see it, I think that was enough. Anything beyond 4, you're kind of crazy. And I think Jamie's a little crazy. So, with that all said, I can't really say anything more about the plot and whatnot, because there are plenty of people who talk about the plot. I just wanted to say, if you want to know what it's all about, go see it. Simple as. You have to at least see it once to understand. And based on the recent numbers for its global kind of like earnings in the box office, it's looking like it's gonna be a profitable franchise for Paramount, which apparently is needed right now for the studio, being that it's it's been in dire straits essentially for a number of years, and like I said, they had their aforementioned Transformers license being quite bad in recent years, and even this recent reboot, the recent prequel of Bumblebee, it didn't really do them too much in the works of, in certain works. But regardless, doesn't matter. Yeah, because you got Sonic the Hedgehog to save your bacon. Who'd thunk it? hey, never mind. We'll see how it all goes and how this series goes afterwards and whatnot, and whether it be more successful. I just hope that this if and when the next like film for this Sonic the Hedgehog Paramount movie franchise goes, I just hope that it has, not as much human elements in it as other than Eggman involved and whatnot. But who knows? We'll find out sometime down the line. And last thing I want to talk about for this edition of the LMC cast is just a little bit on the gaming side. Haven't really played that much this month even. We have played a little bit of a brand new title. This has just started on the Turbo Drive Live Let's Play series that I have up on Twitch, which is at twitch.tv/Turbo Drive Live, where on the Saturday streams, I actually posted up a poll on my personal Twitter asking between 4 games that I had chosen that I have not played before, which one anyone would want me to see me play, and the game that won was the game Star Tropics. Now, after the first session, from this at the time of this recording, I've gone through about 2.5 chapters of Star Tropics, because it's a chapter based kind of like adventure title, RPG adventure title roughly. The first chapter was good, like introduction chapter was perfectly balanced. It's all good, it's fine. Second chapter onward though, second chapter, it's okay. It's a bit of a here and there. Well, not a bit confusion, little bit of confusion here and there. Little trickiness to it and whatnot. Third chapter, however, oh boy, I was becoming very sour by the third chapter, and yeah, I'm playing this on the Nintendo NES library, like the Switch, that's on the Nintendo Switch. If you're a member to the online Nintendo Online membership that I talk about and whatnot, or like you could subscribe to, you get access to a bunch of NES and SNES games. But the unique thing is that you can also there's a rewind function to those games as well. So if you ever like die and whatnot, you can rewind to a certain point. Now I didn't actually say it out on stream, but I was hoping to go through the game without using the rewind function. Turns out by chapter 3, I was heavily needing that rewind function. It was needed. I absolutely needed to get that done, or needed to use that feature. It was really annoying. Regardless, I am giving the game the benefit of the doubt. I was a bit sour after the first hour. Funny that. So hopefully with my next session, I'll obviously enjoy it a little bit more. I have actually known about this game for a long time. I've watched a lot of kind of like reviews on it, particularly that from Derek of Stop Skeletons from Fighting, when he was portraying the character of the Happy Video Game Nerd, which I absolutely loved back in the day. But I still am kind of like impressed with his work, even to this day, with Stop Skeletons from Fighting. So he's a real cool dude. Even that of, I believe, also back in the day, there was another kind of like YouTuber by the name of Little Miss Gamer, who I think her name was Liz, actually, who was part of the PBC production. Was it PBC or PCB Productions? I can't remember, but it was the same guys. She was part of the same group that did the Adventures of Captain S internet series that was prominent back in, I'm gonna say 2007, 8, roughly around that time. So this is a long time ago. This is like years, over a decade ago, and I still have it. I still have the DVD of that series in my possession. And what was it? I think I have the soundtrack as well, actually, of the series. It was quite an interesting series back in the day, and it was something to, I looked forward to it, and I was always hoping for for season 2. Never came. It never came. It was such a shame. But regardless, but going back to Star Tropics, I know, complete detour there. But yeah, Star Tropics. At first, obviously, it's becoming a little annoying. I'll give it a couple of more sessions and whatnot. I'm hoping to actually beat it eventually, but only time will tell, obviously, on that. So who knows? But that's all I've played. I mean, everything else that I've played before in the past. Obviously, just finished up Halo Reach for Turbo Drive Live Let's Plays on the live channel. Still playing through Ring Fit Adventure, and of course, we're gonna beat that eventually on the channel. Although, granted, in my own personal time, I've been putting in a lot of time into, still got the level at max level, and I'm sweating buckets after every session and whatnot, trying to at least get a world done. On some occasions, I'm taking like an hour and a half to get through even like half a world because I'm doing so much battling in it. The battles can go on for quite a while, but no, it's it's business as usual essentially with Ring Fit Adventure. And of course, next month is going to be a big gaming month. I'll definitely say that right now. It's going to have a lot of games that are going to be talked about. I would hope so. And one in particular is on the calendar, is in my sights. And it's also at a time where a certain event's going to be happening. And I've just, as of this recording, I just went and got tickets for this event in question. It's on the same day as the game that I've also been wanting to get as well. So this is going to be quite the big, month next month for March. So do look forward to that if you're interested in knowing what myself and hopefully other Last Minute Continue crew members have to talk about for next month, if and when they do come onto the podcast and give their thoughts. But hey, we might just have to rebrand this podcast as Turbo Talks About, the podcast and whatnot, and we'll just call it that for going forward. But who knows? Only time will tell. But of course, I actually haven't given people many of the people who, if you do listen to this podcast, and if you do, thank you very much for listening. But if you want to send in, your thoughts off the month, to give your kind of like opinion on what happened that month, I might actually open up, a little bit of time dedicated to you, the listener, who is listening to this. If you do listen to this and you've made it all the way to the end, I want to, open up the floor to you. What were your kind of like highlights from this month, for the month of February? And if you send them to me personally at TurboXLR, or you send it to the Twitter for Last Minute Continue, which is at LastMinContinue, or post it at any of the other kind of like outlets, or even like send in a review on the podcast through iTunes or something like that. If you want to talk about what you've played, or what you watched, or what you've gone to see on the month of February, then send us a tweet or message or whatever, or even join us at the Discord. And who knows, I might actually talk about your responses in the follow-up episode of the podcast and give your thoughts and whatnot. So yeah, if you have any thoughts about this month, the month of February, and you want to get mentioned in next month's LMC cast, then by all means, send messages through the various medias at TurboXLR, at Last Minute Continue. Just use the hashtag LMCcast. I think that's only easy enough to follow. So yeah, makes sense. Kind of impromptu there, but it works out works out all together, I think. Anyway, I've been rambling on long enough. I hope you have enjoyed listening to me talking about all that for the last hour or so. Be sure to obviously, subscribe to the podcast feed if you do that and want to keep up to date with all the monthly kind of like Last Minute Continue podcasts that we do here for Last Minute Continue. I have been John Turbo Finley here for the month of February 2020 with the Last Minute Continue cast. Have yourselves a good time for March. I will see you at the end of March for another edition of the podcast, and hope you all do well, and I'll see you later. Bye-bye.